Hi, Mike. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for sending your paper over to the Writing Center. And so, as you'll see on the screen here, I pulled up basically what you wanted me to review and look over. And it looks like this paper is about, your relationship to race and ethnicity and how that has changed over time, how that shaped you, and then how you feel about your identity. So that's pretty clear, in terms of the prompt. And then I noticed you wanted me to look over grammar, spelling, punctuation, flow of the paper, and anything else. So it's very open-ended, as you say, and you want to make sure it sounds good and flows well. So since all of these are a little bit vast and I only have a little, a short time to comment, I had to sort of narrow my scope and talk about the things that stuck out to me as a reader. As a reader, who doesn't know you, who doesn't know the entirety of the class in this paper. So I think that could be of use to you. So here is your paper. And so the three basic things that I wanted to address in a nutshell is going to be your thesis, your topic sentences, and then one thing I noticed was this sort of listing mechanism you use throughout your paper. So I wanted to address that as well. So listing, topic sentences, and your thesis. So to start off, because the thesis is really the heart of these types of papers, even in informal ones, I think you need to have some sort of a, argument or some sort of major claim. So if you look on your own or on the screen, so I highlighted in yellow here what I thought your thesis to be, and I'll read it aloud. While I believe that identity emphasis is important, it is more important than the person who possesses those identities. So one thing I noticed that was interesting is you frame your thesis as a question. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best route to go. I don't know if that's necessarily incorrect. It's not really standard, I suppose. And one thing about it also that had me, forming questions in my own head was what you meant by identity emphasis. I'm not really sure what that means. And then if we scroll a little bit above here, you talk about central identities. So is everything you list here central identities? That was a question I had. And then another one was so what is identity emphasis? Who is applying the emphasis on a person? Is it society? Is it your family? Where is identity emphasis basically coming from? And so yeah, I was questioning why you did frame it as a question. So I guess trying to work through this, are you trying to say that the person is more important than the identities placed on that person by society? I think that's sort of what you're trying to get at. But as far as revision, why not change this from a question into an actual claim or a statement? Something along the lines of, what people place on you, what identity people place on you is not as important as the person behind these so-called identities. So it's what's important is the person. And I think, throughout your paper, since I've already read it, I think you do a, thorough job at sort of proving that there is more to what you perceive, there's more to you than what these identities tell or show. And I think you do that. But I think it would be a lot, cleaner, a lot more clear if you frame this question into an actual statement and then just briefly identify what you mean by identity emphasis. I think that would make the thesis even stronger. Okay. So moving on, I wanted to address your topic sentences. So as a whole, you have 9 paragraphs total in this essay, and 7 of your paragraphs are body paragraphs, which is a lot. I think that's a pretty hefty, body paragraph total. And in general, the topic sentences, some are really long, like this one, the first one here that I highlighted in blue, it's very long. So if we scroll down, this one's not so long. Scroll down more, this one is extremely short. So can you see sort of what I'm referring to in terms of the consistency of how these topic sentences, and not only the topic sentences, but the paragraphs themselves, how they look on the page. Some paragraphs are very large, some are very small. Some topic sentences are very large, some are very small. And then if we scroll down a little more, semi-long, short, and then semi-long, really short. So there's a little bit of inconsistency with just the length and the amount of detail that goes in a topic sentence. And you really want to try to be consistent. So that's just a general overview of what I notice in terms of like the visual appearance of the topic sentences and the paragraphs on the page, because they go hand in hand. And so just as an example, so the other point I wanted to make about your topic sentences. So the whole idea of a topic sentence is to basically make a claim but focus it on one theme. So you can't necessarily talk about all these different things in one paragraph unless your topic sentence explicitly addresses those things. But even then, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that because it's always better to focus on one particular theme than all these various things. So for your first paragraph here, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and D.C. was like St. Louis or Cleveland as they are today. And then you list how it's different. And so you're talking about where you grew up. But then later on in that same paragraph, you talk about your friends and you talk about your parents and the luxuries that your parents provided for you. So in the topic sentence, what I'm thinking you're about to talk about is what Washington, D.C. proper is like, in terms of just the environment itself. But then later on in that same paragraph, you talk about something a little different. You talk about more of your interpersonal relationships, your friends and your parents. So it doesn't really connect with the topic sentence. And that's really important for topic sentences. They have to connect. And so I'll give you another example of that same thing for your second paragraph. So here's your second body paragraph, and I'll read the topic sentence aloud. The topic of race was never ingrained in my mind. I was never taught to treat one group of people a certain way. I was never told that skin color could govern how society treats you. So race for me was just a simple physical difference. So here, it seems like you're focusing on one particular theme, the theme of race or skin color, right? So I think that's effective. You're focusing on one thing, but then underneath that topic sentence, you talk about education and you talk about being a student. And that doesn't necessarily connect back to race and skin color. If you wanted to talk about early education and being a student, this topic sentence would have to basically relate to education and being a student. So I hope that sort of makes sense. So whatever you decide to say in your topic sentence, everything that comes underneath it has to be directly related to that topic sentence. That's super important throughout all of your paragraphs. And so just as an aside, if we look back to what the prompt sort of asks you, instead of 7 body paragraphs, why not just make them 3 body paragraphs? And you can easily structure it in the way that the prompt says. So the first body paragraph could be what I was taught, not taught about your upbringing in the relationship to race and ethnicity. That could be your first paragraph. Your second paragraph could be how my life shaped what I know about race and identity. And then your third paragraph could be how I feel about my identity. So that's just a super easy way to format your body paragraphs. It's no fuss, it's really simple, and simple is always better. Instead of having 7 paragraphs that seem to weave in and out of very similar ideas. So that's just something that you should think about for a revision. And so lastly, I just wanted to touch on listing, the other question I had in this paper. And I noticed that on several occasions you use listing, and listing can be an effective technique when you're trying to make a point, but sometimes it seems like you're listing a little too much information. Like the first sentence, there's a lot of identities here, a lot of listing. And then I basically, if you'll see, I bolded them in black so you can sort of see what I'm talking about. And so here, the second paragraph, a lot of listing, all these listing. And then we can scroll down further. More listing. Before I came to college, I appreciated my background. I appreciated. So that alliteration can be great. That listing can be great, but it could be a little too much, and it could kind of, as a reader, I felt slightly overwhelmed by how much information was in these lists. So if you could sort of narrow it down to like the most, I don't know, important ones, or the ones most applicable to your paper, that would be better for you, because then you'll start to sound less repetitive and more focused on your intentions in the paper. So just as a recap, your thesis. So basically, your next steps are to change your thesis from a question into an actual statement with an argument. Focus on yourself and identify what you mean by identity emphasis here. Make a claim in your thesis. Your second step, I would say, would be to be cognizant of how long and how short your topic sentences are and your paragraphs, and also make sure that the topic in the topic sentence relates to everything that comes underneath it in that paragraph. It has to connect. And then I made a suggestion earlier about the way you can frame your body paragraphs in the way the prompt describes. So that's something to think about. And then finally, the listing, just try to limit how much you list and what you list to the most important traits. But other than that, I think you've done a really thorough job in describing your background. And I hope these comments prove handy as you revise. And please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any further questions. Thanks so much. Good luck. Bye-bye.